Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Friday. Happy Freaky Friday to all you freaks out there. Hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. Got a new day, which of course means a new MLB Player Prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money, and there is no better day to make some money than Freaky Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. By the way, repping the Freaky Friday t-shirt, which you can find over at the Fade Me store. I'll make sure to link this shirt down below in the video. You can check out at the Fade Me store, as well as a ton of great merchandise over there. That link, if you want to look more into it, is in the description for this video. As always, guys, like we do every single Friday here on the channel, we have our Freaky Friday 5-leg parlay. Last week, we cashed a very big hit. We focused on strikeouts. I'm going to stick with that theme of riding with one singular type of player prop. But this week, we're moving away from strikeouts, and we're going to do hits today. So it's a 5-leg parlay, all hits. All they need to do is get one hit for each and every player. So very simple, very easy to go ahead and follow along. And like we do every single Friday here on the channel, guys, we have our Freaky Friday giveaway. The rules are very simple. All you have to do is comment Freaky down below in the comment section. And if this parlay hits, one lucky commenter will win a free $25 Amazon gift card. We cashed last week, so we had a winner last week. Let's see if we can't go ahead and cash again this week and give someone else an Amazon gift card. So like I said, guys, comment Freaky down below for your chance to win a free $25 Amazon gift card. Again, if the parlay hits, we'll be selecting one lucky commenter to go ahead and give away that gift card. All right, one last thing before we dive into today's 5-leg parlay. We do have to go ahead and recap yesterday's 4-leg parlay very quickly. Jumping on over to GuyBostonSports.com. Unfortunately, guys, we were very close, but no cigar. We had a 4-leg parlay yesterday. All three of the players that were hits, which to me is why I decided to go with hit player props in today's video. We were on the money yesterday with our hits player props, not so much with the strikeout. Jonathan Ronda, Ellie De La Cruz, and Josh Naylor all cashed their bets. The one guy who messed up this parlay was Reds pitcher Andrew Abbott, over 4.5 strikeouts. And to be honest, I'm not just saying this to be like, oh, well, I had the answer. I was going to go with him under runs, and I thought the strikeouts was a safer play. Ultimately, it was not. But either way, listen, you can't go back. Revisionist history is always 20/20, or hindsight is always 20/20, they say. But hey, the positive, taking the positive from yesterday, all of our hit player props cash. So today we have a 5-leg parlay, all focusing on hit player props. Let's see if we can't go ahead and carry that positive momentum from the player props from yesterday into today's video. No more time to waste, guys. Let's dive right into today's Freaky Friday 5-leg parlay. All right, guys, we have a wide range of games today. The first player prop, the first leg of our parlay, comes from a 12:40 p.m. first pitch, and the last leg of our player prop comes from a 10:10 p.m. First pitch. So a long day ahead of us. Now, if we lose early on, it is what it is. But obviously, we got a long day for this parlay. It starts off early, ends late. I'm basically going to be sweating all day long. Our first leg of that said 5-leg parlay, we're targeting the Braves-Reds game. Again, 12:40 p.m. first pitch. We're going Brian Hayes, now a member of the Cincinnati Reds, over half a hit. Now, normally I would use DraftKings for a parlay like this, but today we're actually using FanDuel, which has not been a big player with the MLB Player Props this year. They actually have some pretty good odds on today's parlay, better than anyone else. So we're rocking with FanDuel for today's parlay, and yes, we are using some alternate lines in today's parlay as well. Let's jump over to the outlier screen here, guys, because I think a lot of people are going to kill me here. We're 4 minutes in. We're just starting with our first player prop. But Brian Hayes, over half a hit. This is only his second game as a member of the Cincinnati Reds. Now, this is an alternate line at -185, but it's not too juice, and the data is very solid across the board. 7 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 0.9 hits per game over his last 10 games. And in his debut yesterday for the Reds, he did have one hit in what was a 12-11 loss for the Reds. If we go ahead and stretch the data out the entire 2025 season, a 67% hit rate on this over, averaging 0.88 hits per game all overall this year. So 70% last 10 games, 67% overall this year. Pretty consistently good across the board for Ke'Bryan Hayes. Look at the head-to-head data here. 5 of his last 6 matchups with the Atlanta Braves dating back to last season, he cashed the over. That's an 83% hit rate, averaging 1.33 hits per game against the Braves across those last 6 matchups. So pretty good numbers. He's played them 4 times this year, 3 times as a member of the Pirates, and 1 time so far as a member of the Reds. He has cashed it in 3 consecutive matchups versus the Braves, including 3 of 4 this year. We also have the insights provided by outlier Ke'Bryan Hayes. Has exceeded half a hit in 16 of his last 19 games at home. He's averaging 1.3 hits per game over his last 19 home games. That is an 84% hit rate. How relevant is this insight? It remains to be seen because 18 of these 19 home games were in Pittsburgh. He's had 1 home game in Cincinnati. So does he consider Cincinnati home just yet? I don't know if that's totally relevant because he's switched teams, but it's worth noting. Looking down both the key matchup stats, Ke'Bryan Hayes versus Bryce Elder, the Reds pitcher. 8 plate appearances since 2018. He has a couple of hits off of him. Not a ton of great data there. Only 8 plate appearances, though, so not a ton to go off of. But he does have a couple hits off from 250 batting average, 375 slugging. Not terrible. Overall this year, you see Ke'Bryan Hayes' numbers all consistently increase when facing off with right-handed pitchers like Bryce Elder. And looking at the Bryce Elder side of things, this is where the player prop really gets juicy to me, is the matchup versus Elder. He's not having a very good year, and versus right-handed batters like Ke'Bryan Hayes, it's not getting much better. That batting average allowed increases massively to 322, 7.58 ERA, 365 BABIP, so really good numbers there. And then looking at Ke'Bryan Hayes versus Bryce Elder's pitch arsenal, we see that Bryce Elder, his number 1 utilized pitch is the sinker at 41.9%. And you do see an increase in Ke'Bryan Hayes' WOBA overall, 256, versus the sinker, you see it increase to 280. His second most utilized pitch, the slider, 38.1% of his pitches. You see a massive jump in Ke'Bryan Hayes' WOBA to 351. And then the changeup, his third most utilized pitch, 300. So his top 3 pitches, you see Ke'Bryan Hayes, they're all above his average WOBA. You got to go to fastball, which is his 4th pitch, less than 10% to find a WOBA where it decreases. But it seems to be pretty good across the board for Ke'Bryan Hayes. For minus 185, a lot of value in this player prop. So that's our first leg of our 5-leg parlay. All right, guys, our second leg of our 5-leg parlay. Moving on to the Orioles-Cubs game, 2:20 p.m. first pitch. We're going Jackson Holliday of the Baltimore Orioles over half a hit. Grabbing this for minus 220 over on FanDuel, and jumping back into the outlier screen here, you'll see again, which is pretty consistent across the board for all these player props, of course, being alternate lines. The data is going to be pretty solid. 70% hit rate over his last 10 games, averaging 1.2 hits per game over his last 10 games. If we go ahead and stretch the data out the entire 2025 season view, a 67% hit rate on the season, averaging 1.04 hits per game this year. So very similar to the last player prop we just had. 70% last 10 games, 67% overall this year. Very solid and very consistent all season long from Jackson Holliday. Now, we have no head-to-head data. Obviously, you have an American League team versus a National League team. They don't meet all that often, so Jackson Holliday, a younger player, does not have any head-to-head data against the Cubs. We can, though, go ahead and look at the insight provided by outlier. Jackson Holliday has exceeded half a hit in 5 of his last 6 games on the road, averaging 1.2 hits per game over his last 6 road games. So pretty good numbers there. It's an 83% hit rate over his last 6 road games. As we scroll down below to the matchup stats, the player prop kind of comes into a little bit of a clearer view. Yes, the data above that I just showed you guys is solid, but the matchup is also very solid as well. You see Jackson Holliday having a solid year for a struggling Orioles team. You do see a healthy amount of his numbers increase when facing off with right-handed pitchers like Cade Horton. So you see the batting average increases, hard hitting percentage, WRC+, they all increase from his overall numbers. The only number you see here that decreases ever so slightly is his BABIP, and honestly, let's be honest, it's basically the same number. And looking at Cade Horton, not having a terrible year, but not having a great year either, his numbers increase in some capacity versus left-handed batters like Jackson Holliday. You see the number one key point here is the batting average allowed jumps from 264 to 290. Obviously, when we're looking at a hit player prop, that's a very important thing. BABIP is 333. You do see, though, his ERA and his FIP do decrease when facing off with left-handed batters, but I'm not overly concerned about that because, again, we just need a hit here. A single will do, and you see the batting average allowed is definitely on the higher side. Now, looking at Jackson Holliday versus Cade Horton's pitch arsenal. Again, Cade Horton, his number one utilized pitch is the fastball. 49.3% of his pitches are fastballs. Jackson Holliday, his overall WOBA is 315. Looking at his WOBA versus the fastball, you see the increase there, right? 356, that's good. His second most utilized pitch for Cade Horton is the slider, 22.2%. You see Jackson Holliday still increase from his overall WOBA, 372. That's obviously very good. Now we're into his third most utilized pitch, the changeup at 13.2%. And that's where you see you first kind of drop here. It goes to 254. Obviously not great. But then you go next pitch up, the fourth most utilized pitch, the curveball, 11.4%, 339 WOBA. And even the sinker, which he barely uses, 4%, you see 392. So 4 of his 5 most utilized pitches, Jackson Holliday has an above average WOBA against. The only one that's a little concerning is the changeup, which only makes up about 13.2% of Cade Horton's pitch arsenal. And the one last data point I want to show you guys, jumping over to the dashboard over on GuyBostonSports.com, kind of narrowing the data down to the last 30 days. And you do see Jackson Holliday versus right-handed pitchers like Cade Horton over the last month. The batting average 333 and the OPS 926. So having a lot of success versus right-handed pitchers of late. And again, we saw the overall numbers for Jackson Holliday here, 272 batting average overall this year. He's been pretty consistently better against right-handed pitchers overall this year, but especially over the last month, he has been crushing it. So that's our second leg of our 5-leg parlay. All right, guys, our third leg of our 5-leg parlay. Now we're moving into the later stages of the day. We have Yankees Marlins in Miami. We have 7:10 p.m. first pitch. We got Jazz Chisholm Jr. of the New York Yankees making his return to Miami for the first time since being traded to the Yankees about a year ago. Jazz Chisholm Jr. over half a hit, we're grabbing it from minus 250 on FanDuel. This is the highest, most juiced line that FanDuel has to offer for this parlay. Jumping back over to the outlier screen here, and you do see Jazz Chisholm, 6 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 0.8 hits per game over the last 10 games. Looking at the overall 2025 season data, a 63% hit rate on the season, averaging 0.88 hits per game this year. So 60% last 10 games, 63% overall this year. Like I said, guys, for an alternate line, you know it's going to be pretty solid. Now, he has not played the Marlins since being traded, so no head-to-head data against his former team just yet. But we do have an insight provided by Outlier. Jazz Chisholm has exceeded half a hit in 8 of his last 10 games on the road. He's averaging 1 hit per game across the last 10 road games. Before we continue on with this player prop, guys, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Outlier. Most of the data, minus the little couple of dashboard things I've shown you guys so far, most of the data in today's video is coming from this screen right here, the Outlier screen. They're the sponsor of today's video and all my player prop videos here on the channel, and they're the best sports betting tool on the market. We do offer a special link down below in the description that gives you guys a 7-day free trial to go ahead and check it out for yourself. I give you guys a little taste of what Outlier can provide, but there's so much more insight, so much more information than what I can possibly show you guys in a single video. So go ahead, check it out for yourself. Utilize that 7-day free trial when you use that special link in the description. Check it out for yourself. I promise you guys, you will not be disappointed. Outlier has made me a better sports bettor. It can make you a better sports bettor. It's proper to have a good sports betting tool by your side, especially with football coming up. You're going to want this tool by your side. So go ahead and check that out one more time. Link down below in the description. 7-day free trial. Shout out to Outlier for sponsoring today's video and all my player prop videos here on the channel. All right, guys, looking down below the key matchup stats, Jazz Chisholm versus Jansen Junk since 2018. He only has 1 plate appearance against them, but he did get a hit in that 1 plate appearance. Incredibly small sample size. You can't really go off of that all that much, but I do think it's still worth noting in some capacity. Jazz Chisholm overall, if you're having a decent year, you do see versus right-handed pitchers some small increases and some bigger increases in the numbers. Overall, though, they're not too different from his overall averages. 246 batting average, not terrible, but not great. Again, like the last couple player props, it really comes down to the matchup here. And Jansen Junk versus left-handed batters, like Jazz Chisholm, has struggled this year. See the batting average, a massive jump from 264 to 305. The BABIP from 312 to 356. ERA, FIP, they all increase when facing off left-handed batters like Jazz Chisholm. And again, Jazz Chisholm versus Jansen Junk's pinch arsenal. What does Jansen Junk have to utilize here? So the slider, his number 1 most used pitch, 43.2% of his pitches are sliders. Okay, now you do see some decreases here. Jazz Chisholm, his overall WOBA is 353. 294 is not bad, though. 294 is still a decent enough WOBA where, yes, it's a decrease, and yes, it is something to be a little bit concerned about, but it's still not a bad WOBA, and I still think Jazz Chisholm, 294 is not terrible. So yes, it's a little concerning there. That's the most concerning part of the player prop, honestly, is that data point right there. But honestly, it's still not terrible. The further down the line you go, it gets better. The fastball, his second most utilized pitch, 38.6%. You see Jazz Chisholm, 362 WOBA. The curveball, which is his third most utilized pitch, 508. And then versus the changeup, his fourth most utilized pitch, only 5.7% though, 358. So again, the worst WOBA so far listed is against his best pitch, most used pitch. A little concerning there, but still 294 is not a terrible number. I'm willing to go ahead and look past that. And one last data point before I move on, Jazz Chisholm, over the last month, you see his batting average versus right-handed pitchers over the last 30 days, 290 with a 1.034 OPS. So all the numbers I've shown you guys, the overall data, the last month data, the matchup stuff, everything to me points as being a solid player prop. The one negative, of course, being Jazz Chisholm's numbers versus the slider, but even there, it's not terrible. And even when Jansen Junk comes out, the Marlins don't have a great bullpen, so I expect Jazz Chisholm to go ahead and get at least one hit in his return to Miami. All right, guys, our fourth leg of our five-leg parlay. Moving on to the Cardinals-Padres game, 9:40 p.m. first pitch, now moving very late into the day. We have Xander Bogaerts of the Padres over half a hit, grabbing that for minus 210 over on FanDuel. Again, alternate line. It's the same story for most of these player props. The data is very good to very solid across the board. Xander Bogaerts, 80% hit rate over his last 10 games, averaging 1.1 hits per game over his last 10. Even if you want to go ahead and look at a more expanded sample size, but still a little more on the narrow side of things, the last 20 games, an 80% hit rate for Bogaerts, averaging 1.2 hits per game over his last 20 games. And then stretching this out to the entire 2025 season view for Bogaerts, a 63% hit rate, averaging 0.96 hits per game this year. So 80% last 10, 80% last 20, 63% overall in 2025. That all is pretty solid. Now, look at the head-to-head data. 6 of his last 11 matchups with the Cardinals, he's cashed the over. It's a 55% hit rate, averaging 0.73 hits per game across the last 11 matchups with St. Louis. He has played them 4 times this season, actually all within the last week, honestly. And 3 of those 4 matchups, he has cashed the over. So pretty good head-to-head data this year. Pretty good data overall for Bogaerts against St. Louis. We also have the insights provided by Outlier here. Bogaerts has exceeded half a hit in 9 of his last 11 games at home, averaging 1.4 hits per game over his last 11 home games. That is, of course, an 82% hit rate. So pretty good numbers, really, overall here for Xander Bogaerts. And the matchup data is very solid as well, except for one little point here, and that is Xander Bogaerts versus Matthew Liberatore head-to-head. 4 plate appearances since 2018. He has 0 hits against him. 4 plate appearances is honestly a small sample size, so I'm willing to go ahead and look past that. Now, if this was like 16 plate appearances or even 10, I'd be a little more concerned. But only 4 plate appearances, yeah, it's a little bit alarming that he hasn't gotten a hit off of him since. But again, only 4 plate appearances. It is a small sample size to go off of. And all the other matchup data is very solid. You see Bogaerts, his numbers all take some nice increases when facing off with left-handed pitchers like Matthew Liberatore. You see his batting average jumps up to 306, his BABIP 347, and so on and so forth. All very solid numbers. And Matthew Liberatore, his numbers all increase when facing off with right-handed batters like Xander Bogaerts. 273 batting average, definitely on the higher side, so we like to see when betting a hit player prop. And if you did go, I'm not going to go over the dashboard screen because it just kind of reiterates a lot of the same stuff. He's hitting very well, even over the last month, versus left-handed pitchers. It's pretty consistent across the board that Bogaerts has success versus lefties this year. And again, looking down below at Bogaerts versus Matthew Liberatore's pitch arsenal. You see Liberatore, his most used pitch is the fastball. 27.4% of his pitches this year have been fastballs. Well, Bogaerts, who has a 317 WOBA in general, versus the fastball, similar to the last player prop. You do see a drop here, but 297, it's still high enough for WOBA that I'm able to go ahead and accept it and look past it. It's not bad. 297 is not a terrible number. It is a decrease from his overall average, but it's still not terrible. The further down the list you go, though, you do see some good data points here. His second most utilized pitch, the slider, Bogaerts, 445 WOBA. His third most utilized pitch, the curveball, 347 WOBA. The fourth most utilized pitch, the changeup, 433. The cutter, 424. The worst one, honestly, is the sinker, which only makes up 11.5% of his pitches. So pretty good numbers across. And even that, 282 is not like an abysmal line for Bogart. So pretty good numbers across the board here. Again, for minus 210, the value is certainly there. The matchup is very, very strong here. Bogart should go ahead and get a hit against Liberatore. So that's our fourth leg of our 5-leg parlay. All right, guys, our fifth and final leg in today's parlay. We have Rangers, Mariners, 10:10 p.m. first pitch. We have Eugenio Suarez. I did look at the pronunciation, so I'm learning. I'm getting better. I know usually most people call him Gino Suarez, but Eugenio Suarez, I believe, is the proper pronunciation here. Again, we're learning here. I'm going to call him Gino, though, just for the sake of easiness. Gino Suarez, who just obviously got reacquired by his former team, the Seattle Mariners. Gino Suarez over half a hit, minus 160 on FanDuel, barely an alternate line, almost honestly a single bet. But Gino Suarez over half a hit, 6 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 0.7 hits per game over his last 10 games. He did make his official return debut for the Mariners yesterday versus the Rangers, and he did have a hit in what was a 6-0 win for the Mariners. If you go ahead and stretch the data out to the last 20 games, still consistently good, 65% hit rate, averaging 0.8 hits per game over his last 20 games. And in 2025 overall this year, a 64% hit rate on this over, averaging 0.91 hits per game overall this year. So 60% last 10, 65% last 20, and 64% overall. Pretty consistent all year long. Now, from a head-to-head perspective, obviously he just came over from Arizona, so they didn't play the Rangers all that much last year. But you do have some head-to-head data, and in 3 of the last 5 matchups with the Rangers, he did go ahead and cash the over, averaging 1.2 hits per game across the last 5 matchups. And again, he played the Rangers yesterday, and he got a hit in yesterday's game versus Texas. This is kind of reiterating what we've already talked about here. He's cashed the over in 4 of his last 5 games, so don't really need to go too far into that. And the matchup stats are pretty good. Gino Suarez, a lot of his numbers, you see some nice increases when facing off with right-handed pitchers like Jack Leiter. 271 batting average, 297 BIP, 150.9 WRC plus, very, very strong there. So pretty good numbers. And Jack Leiter, who's having a solid year, he is very much better against left-handed batters than he is right-handed batters. You see 254 batting average allowed, 295 BIP, all of his numbers. You see some steady increases when facing off with right-handed batters like Suarez. And we scroll down below here to again, one more time, looking at Suarez and looking at the batter versus the pitcher's pitch arsenal here. Jack Leiter, his number 1 most utilized pitch is the fastball, 34.4%. Suarez, his overall WOBA, 376. It's obviously a very good number. Versus the fastball, 415. So it gets even better. 415 is a phenomenal WOBA. The second pitch, the slider, a slight decrease, but 356 obviously is still a very good number. His third most utilized pitch, the sinker, 400 WOBA. The changeup, 373. Again, down from his overall average, but 373 is still a very good number. And then versus the curveball, which is only 8.7% of his pitches, 304. So pretty good numbers across the board here for Suarez. Again, the vibes are high. He's back in Seattle, divisional matchup. I expect him to go ahead and get a hit here in this matchup. That's our 5th and final leg in today's parlay. All right, guys, those are all 5 legs in today's parlay. Quick little run through here. By the way, this screen is the easiest way to go ahead and tail the parlay. The link will be in the description. A lot of links in the description, I know. This one is clearly stated. It says link for today's picks. It's in the description. It'll also be in the pinned comment as well. But in the description is the easy way to find it. It'll take you to this page here. You can go ahead and easily go ahead and tail. So we have Jackson Holliday of the Orioles over half a hit. Ke'Bryan Hayes of the Reds over half a hit. Xander Bogaerts of the Padres over half a hit. Gino Suarez of the Mariners over half a hit. And Jazz Chisholm of the Yankees over half a hit. You parlay all 5 together to parlay a plus 657 odds over on FanDuel. The best odds that I found available. Again, I always talk to you guys every video about finding the best odds available. This is why. Look at the difference here, right? It's all the same stuff, but on FanDuel it's plus 657, on BetMGM plus 527. You know, it may not sound that crazy, but if you put $100 down, this wins you 527. This wins you 657. It's the same parlay. Nothing's different from each sportsbook, just the odds. So you could win $130 more betting FanDuel than BetMGM. This is what I talk to you guys about every day, about finding the best sportsbook odds available. It does make a difference in the long run. Usually use DraftKings, but again, plus 657 on FanDuel is the best option. The good thing here is that honestly, as you can see, whatever sportsbook you are using or is available to you, a lot of options here. This is available on FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, BetMGM, Hard Rock Bet, Prize Picks, Underdog, Sleeper, Flip. It's available on every sportsbook, basically all 5 legs. So this is the easiest parlay that everybody can go ahead and tag along with. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I'll be back tomorrow with another MLB Player Prop video. Until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Freaky Friday, have some freaky fun, and let's go ahead and make some money, baby. Let's go.